Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, Ranjan, I can.
That's fine.
Good morning, good evening, and good day to everyone. Welcome to our webinar on collaborative governance lessons from the pilot project in Himachal Pradesh. I'm Suresh Shenoy, a graduate of IIT Bombay, class of 72. I'm a founding member of the Wheels Global Foundation and serve as president. My bio, as also that of all the speakers, will be flashed on the screen and is also included in our banners on our website, wheelsglobal.org. So in the interest of time, we will only give brief introductions to our distinguished speakers. Wheels is an initiative of Pan IIT and was started in 2006 as a charitable organization in the US and as a Section 8 company in India. And Wheels' mission is to improve lives in rural India by technology-enabled solutions. Where solutions do not exist, we engage our IITs and other similar institutions for further innovation towards self-sustainable and scalable solutions. We do this also by working collaboratively with proven on-the-ground NGOs, and some of them are on the panel today, and you'll be hearing from them, and others such as Mission Samriddhi, Magan Sangrahalaya, Win Foundation, and several others that we work with. And our projects cover 6 areas as the name suggests: water, health, education, energy, rural livelihoods, and sustainability. Some examples of exciting projects, each with a scaling ramp to millions of people, include telemedicine centers, for example, providing quality and affordable care, newborn and mother nutritional health, Save Farmers Initiative, sanitary pads for rural girls, spoken tutorials to bring IT skills to the masses. And this was presented in a previous webinar a couple of weeks ago. Now, Wheels is a volunteer organization and depends on the generosity of our many donors who share our vision for impacting 20% of India's rural and semi-urban population by 2030. And in November, from the 11th to the 13th, Wheels, together with Pan IIT, Stanford University, and Banaras Hindu University, and other partners, will be hosting the 7th annual Ideal Village Conference at Banaras. Some of the confirmed speakers include Sri Ravi Shankar, Vice Chancellor and Padma Shri Sudhir Jain, Dr. Sunny Anand of Stanford, Sri B.K. Modi, Sri R.S. Sodhi of Amul, and many others. I hope some of you, or all of you, can join. Details are at our website, www.idealvillageconference.com. Today's event is a part of our series of thought leadership forums, where prominent speakers share their unique and inspiring perspectives on a variety of subjects. We have conducted over 22 such events during the last 2 years, and you can find them all at our website. Now, a few quick disclaimers. All views expressed are those of the speakers and do not reflect or endorsed by Wheels Global Foundation or its board of directors. Now, some housekeeping messages. All attendees are on mute throughout the conference, throughout the webinar. Please enter your name and your question in the Q&A box. And if you need help, you can chat with one of us by raising your hand or typing your request in the chat box. Questions from the audience will be curated and channeled to the speakers by us. And a recording of this event will also be available on our website and on YouTube and Facebook. Now it is my distinct honor to introduce my co-chair, Ms. Gauri Kumar. In her illustrious career as an IAS officer, Ms. Kumar has served as secretary in the Labor Ministry, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Mines, etc. She's on the board of several commercial and other enterprises. She's a graduate of Harvard University, and most importantly for us, she's on our board and serves as the chairman of our Water Council. Her excellent leadership and keen intellect is only exceeded by her passion for giving back to the communities and her commitment to serve the nation. Please welcome Gauri Kumar. Over to you, Gauri ji.
Thank you for your very generous introduction, Suresh. Water is the most critical element, intimately impacting particularly rural lives, economy, health, and livelihoods, and with serious consequences if not addressed now. It is also intricately linked to the achievement of several sustainable development goals. SDG Goal 6 is to ensure access to water and sanitation to all. No wonder WNB stands for water. Of all the water that exists on our planet, very interestingly, around 97% is salt water. Of the 3% or so of fresh water available, almost half of it remains frozen in glaciers, ice caps, or deep underground aquifers. Just around 1.5% is available for our use, making every drop count. Further, with continuing population, urban and industrial growth, demand continues to escalate in a supply-constrained domain. India, interestingly, is endowed with extraordinarily diverse and distinctive traditional water bodies and resources found in different parts of the country, like ponds, lakes, springs, bawdis, as they are called in Himachal, talabs, and others. They play an important role in maintaining and restoring ecological balance. They act as sources of drinking water, irrigation, they recharge groundwater, control floods, support biodiversity, and provide livelihood opportunities to a large number of people. Currently, a major water crisis is being faced in India, with 100 million people on the front line of a nationwide crisis. And many major cities are facing an acute water shortage. The situation is projected to worsen as per United Nations and Niti Aayog reports, with demand for water reaching twice the available supply, and 40% of India's population having inadequate access to clean drinking water by 2030. 50% of the springs in the Himalayan region have dried up or have seen a decrease in discharge, as per Niti Aayog report. It is in this context that Wheels Water Council was formed with a mission to become trusted partners to state governments in the water sector to catalyze holistic and integrated water management through technology, building collaborative multi-stakeholder partnerships, leveraging best practices, spanning academia, social enterprises, local communities, industry, and others. Our council is working to assess, analyze, recommend, and assist in implementing complex challenges surrounding water management, including source sustainability, distribution, consumption, and waste recycling. Our strategy is to build an execution consortium with diverse best-in-class entities like on-the-ground NGOs, social enterprises, scientific and academic organizations, corporates, etc., to become trusted advisors to local communities and government for holistic outcomes. Scaling or sustaining any model of social transformation across a region or a country requires
I'm sorry, I think Gauri ji, you are.
Yes,
Okay.
Suresh. Yeah. So I'm saying that to be able to sustain or scale a transformation initiative cannot be achieved without the engagement and support of government and local self-government bodies. Rather than ignoring this reality, it points to an inherent need to develop ways to work harmoniously with a vast network of government across rural India, from villages to blocks to districts to states and central levels. While this appears obvious, in practice, it is extremely difficult. Wheels leadership team of experienced civil service leaders and business entrepreneurs have actually demonstrated that it can be done with the right framework, along with enabling systems and people-level partnership. Our Spring Water Rejuvenation initiative in Himachal Pradesh has developed a pioneering model of collaborative governance to achieve this in a systematic manner, laying a model that can be scaled across the country and geographies. Our project was conceived in response to the stated need for rejuvenating spring water, and it includes detailed planning to bridge the identified gaps in optimal scientific data and evidence-based solutions, technical capacity building, particularly for the identification of aquifers and recharge areas, which we find is most critical in ensuring optimal water infrastructure. And this enabled us to keep the capital cost by the state government to rupees 1 lakh per spring. We also are working to strengthen capacity of local gram panchayats and their action plan for water, with the majority of works to be taken up under NREGA, which we find is a major transformational scheme. We are also building capacity of community institutions, ownership and engagement, and finally, independent third-party evaluation. For implementation, Wheels built a very capable team, which you will hear from today. The complex problems associated with coordination among several partners, ministries, community leaders, and so forth was addressed by developing a collaborative governance framework, a model which shared the roles and responsibilities of the aspirational and holistic outcomes across natural resource productivity, economic, social, and sustainability. While getting everyone on board in principle was not that difficult, execution required enabling glue. Hence the decision to develop from scratch a new system called Collaboration Portal. This portal has a few critical features with village level data mapped in the portal. It provides clear roles, responsibilities, execution timelines, real-time progress metrics towards accountability. My colleague, Mr. Yogesh Andlay, will dwell on it in detail. Wheels designed and developed and implemented this portal, and we are in the process of handing it over to the state government. The project covers 56 streams in HP, and the state plans to scale this to 500 or more streams. Think of the scale and the impact across the state, some of which will be discussed today when we meet. This includes representatives from each of our implementation partners who will be speaking about it. I do not wish to steal the thunder and will now request our moderator, Professor Ranjan Ghosh, to moderate this panel discussion. Dr. Ghosh is undertaking participative action research on this intervention, keeping in view its transformational potential for policy analysis and replicability. His team will also assess the comparative net benefits from the intervention. He is a development economist at the Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad and expert on development problems as they relate to agriculture and resources, and does so by analyzing transaction costs, property rights, and collective action problems. And he's a great partner. So over to you, Ranjan.
You're on mute, Ranjan. Yeah.
Yes, okay, apologies. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Gauri ji. Thanks for framing the Himachal Pradesh project very well as to why you selected that state and introducing the concept of collaborative governance implemented through a web portal. I'm very happy that we have the key individuals from each of the partner organizations who continue to live through this implementation. I will request each of them to talk very briefly in 3 or 4 minutes about their organization's role and exactly what they did. After each of the panelists has his turn, I will follow up with questions. Our first speaker is Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni of ACWADAM. He leads the company, a not-for-profit knowledge institution and think tank working on groundwater since 1998. He is a hydrogeologist by qualification, a PhD from Pune University in 1987, and has been working on aquifers and groundwater across India's diverse groundwater topology for more than 35 years. He has been a CSI research scholar, UNESCO scholar, and a Fulbright fellow at 3 different times of his career. So welcome, Dr. Kulkarni. He will be followed by Dr. Debashish, Director of People's Science Institute. He is a BTech graduate of the Allahabad Agricultural Institute and a PhD from Wageningen University at Netherlands and research. PSI is a company founded by IIT alumni and is known in India's voluntary sector for its pioneering work in the fields of community-led watershed-based land use development, environmental quality monitoring, disaster-safe housing, and dissemination of appropriate technologies. Next, after that, we will have Mr. Rasam Singh, Director, Manav Vikas Sansthan. MVS, or Manav Vikas Sansthan, established in 2000, is an NGO of Niti Aayog, Government of India, and it aims at making people employable through various activities, including skill development. They are an approved training partner of National Skill Development Corporation and has been conducting trainings funded by various government agencies, including National Backward Classes Finance and Development Corporation, National Scheduled Caste Finance and Development Corporation, National Safai Karmacharis Financial Development Corporation, and so on. He will be followed by Professor Sumit of IIT Roorkee. He is an expert in the field of modeling experiments to investigate water movement through various watershed components, understanding surface runoff generation mechanisms, rainfall runoff modeling, hills, slope hydrology, watershed management, low-cost hydrometry instrumentation. And finally, we have Mr. Yogesh Andlay. He's a very successful entrepreneur, a graduate of IIT Delhi, and a co-founder of Polaris Nucleus and many other IT companies. He is a hands-on philanthropist and a mentor to many NGOs. He is a director of Wheels Global Foundation in India and a co-leader of the Wheels Water Council. He is also the architect of the collaborative governance portal mentioned earlier with Ghosh. With this introduction for all our speakers here, I will now request Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni to talk about ACWADAM's role in the Himachal project and start by explaining and talking to us about what does evidence-based aquifer recharge identification actually mean. So I will request the panelists to stick to a 3 to 4 minutes time for each one. So over to you, Dr. Kulkarni.
Thank you, Ranjan, and a very good evening to everyone. Let me jump straight to the task, and I'm actually going to take you through the next 3 minutes on something about the concept and also about the work that ACWADAM did, but this was all in collaboration with the other partners. So let me begin by making a short introduction to ACWADAM. ACWADAM is Advanced Center for Water Resources Development and Management, the organization that I represent. And we work on the science of aquifers, which are the natural hosts for underground water, and the management of aquifers across India and a little bit in other parts of the world as well. Coming to this particular partnership, and I'm going to call it a partnership, this partnership actually involved an interesting blend of people and organizations, but it's also an interesting demonstration of a collaborative governance model on decentralized, democratic, strategic, and knowledge-based revival, restoration, and protection of spring water. So while a lot of us actually work at scale on this concept, I think this is the first time that one is trying to demonstrate a collaborative partnership between 3 or 4 different kinds of organizations. And I'll come to that in a moment. Now, what did we do under this project? First and foremost, when we deal with problems with water, we tend to think that we can solve these problems only through infrastructure engineering solutions. And I think one gap that we tried to fill under this project was to bring in socio-scientific evidence, particularly in catalyzing communities to undertake water management and governance, especially through collective action. And I think collective action is not just about communities. And I'm not saying communities in a very narrow sense of the word. I'm saying communities in terms of all the collaborators, all the stakeholders involved in this program. Now, for doing so, it was necessary to integrate good governance with the science and the scientific and technical aspects of water. And I think the scientific and technical aspects are particularly important given the scale of our water problems, particularly the drying up of springs, as Gauri was talking about, the diversity of natural conditions that control the accumulation and movement of water, particularly in aquifers, that then also drive how springs function or how they dry up. Now, in order to do that, we actually tried to, in a very, very demystified manner, study aquifers with the help of community resource people on the ground. And our mandate in this initiative was identifying appropriate recharge zones where a certain kind of initiative, a certain kind of implementation of measures could actually take place. And mind you, the recharge zones are connected to the underground aquifers that feed the springs in the pilot locations. And I think one needs to look at this connection because it's all invisible. One needs to sort of bring it to the fore. One needs to understand it. And I think for collaborating on such an initiative, it was necessary to build capacity so that a collective understanding on the hydrology of springs could be developed. We did just that, and we did it in several ways. Now, I'll actually end, and we can come back to some of the nitty-gritty of this whole exercise, but I'd like to end with a statement where I felt the most important aspect of this entire initiative was a strategic demonstration or piloting of governance So governance was demonstrated through a very integrated collaboration between civil society organizations, a research institution like IIT Roorkee, government departments, and there were several of them, at least 4 or 5 government departments, and Wheels Foundation, of course. And I think the most significant element of this demonstration was, if we can scale the concept of collaborative governance up or scale it out, I think we'll be able to achieve a certain degree of not just decentralized groundwater water governance, but also a very democratic way in which science can be used, evidence can be created, and participation of communities can actually be included as a driver for development in future. I'll end there. Thank you so very much. And I can come back to some of these discussions a little later.
Thank you very
Ranjan,
much.
I hope I kept to time.
Oh, of course, thank you so much for that, and being very to the point and really giving us a heads up into basically summarizing the project so nicely. I will move on to Dr. Debashish Sen and request him to present his views on the management and the coordination of the project and the role of his organization.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjan, for the introduction. So let me first talk a little bit about the People Science Institute, PSI, which has more than 3 decades of experience in the water sector now, primarily in the Himalayan and Bundelkhand regions of India. And for us, I mean, we had a similar experience of a collaborative governance project way back in 1996, when I remember that we helped the tribal communities of Palamu district of the present Jharkhand state to construct about 125 small earthen dams in collaboration with the state government and local civil society organizations. In fact, the project provided very useful inputs for the Ministry of Rural Development's guidelines for watershed development program. And since 2010, we have been working on springshed management with several state governments, including the northeastern states. Now, let me come to this project. So about 1.5 years back, I still remember the day when Gauri approached us and shared her vision about this project. And we at PSI very happily agreed to the Wheel Global Foundation in designing the pilot program based on our past experiences on springshed management. The first step for us was to identify the key stakeholders, particularly first the local NGOs having good rapport with the communities in their program areas, who could play the role of district implementing agencies. In fact, I would prefer to call them as district facilitating agencies, and at the same time bring in ACWADAM and IIT Roorkee as the technical experts for the required geological studies and as well as hydrological monitoring of the springs. Then in the initial months, our team helped the DIAs in conducting springs inventory, identifying the recharge area of the critical springs or the drying springs, preparing hydrogeological reports, which later got validated by ACWADAM's team, doing even the gap estimation of water at the village level, and then conducting baseline surveys for impact assessment studies, which will be done subsequently. So a total of 45 springs for 32 villages of 4 districts of Himachal are being targeted right now, which will benefit a population of about 10,000 persons. And this has gone along with capacity building of about, I would say, 400 personnel from the concerned government departments, primarily the Forest Department, the Jal Shakti Vibhag, the Rural Development Department, the Agricultural Department, the Livestock Department, the DIAs, and also the village level functionaries, which Gauri has already mentioned, the Gram Panchayats. And we are also providing social and technical inputs for the operationalization of the project. For example, in the formation and capacity building of water user groups for the DIAs, recommendations which already amount to about 1 lakh work so far to the various government departments, which I have mentioned earlier. And these recommendations not only include recharge activities of the drying springs, but also source augmentation, demand management, and grey water management. And for this, we are also providing training to the para-professionals from the community itself for things like rainfall measurements, spring discharge, and water quality monitoring, so that they are able to, the communities themselves will be able to take decisions in future in terms of the operation and maintenance of these springs. So we are regularly collecting data and information from the field to constantly update the web portal, which I think Yogesh ji will be talking about. Thus, overall, we are acting as a bridge between the DIAs and the government departments with a lot of support from, of course, the Wheel Global Foundation, especially Gauri Madam and Yogesh ji. And the DIAs are acting as our extended arms while working with the communities. So thus, it is much more than just, I would say, project management and coordination, the multifold role that PSI is playing in this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sen. It was indeed very insightful. We will come back to all the panelists with questions after everybody has had a chance to speak. So moving over to Mr. Rasam Singh. He will talk about grassroots activities and community ownership. And Dr. and Mr. Rasam Singh, हिंदी में आप बोलेंगे और हमारा एक फीचर है parallel translation. So if that is, I don't know, Suresh, if that is working. If not, we will just try to summarize.
Yeah, thank you. We are looking at it. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I think most of us would be able to follow. Rasam Singh ji, आप अपने विचार व्यक्त करें.
गुड इवनिंग. मानव विकास संस्थान 96 से काम कर रही है और इस प्रोजेक्ट के अंतर्गत जो हमें काम दिया गया था ग्रास रूट पे हमारा जो एक्टिविटीज किया है कम्युनिटी ऑनरशिप और इंस्टीट्यूशन के बारे में. तो मानव हमने इस कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत जो हमारे गांव का था आइडेंटिफाई किए हैं, उसके बाद उनके सर्वे किए हैं, विलेज लेवल मीटिंग की है, मैपिंग की है और सिलेक्शन ऑफ स्प्रिंग्स की है. उसके बाद हमने फॉर्मेशन ऑफ ग्रुप्स तैयार किए हैं. उसके बाद उनके लिए पीएसआई के सहयोग से उन्हें ट्रेनिंग्स दी है, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग उनकी जो स्प्रिंग के संदर्भ में. इसके बाद हमारा रहा था कि जो हमारा गवर्नमेंट के साथ हमारे जो डिपार्टमेंट है उनके साथ मीटिंग्स की हैं और जो इस प्रोजेक्ट लेवल पे छोटी छोटी ग्राम लेवल समस्या आती थी उनके समाधान के लिए हम गांव लेवल पे गवर्नमेंट के साथ मिलकर कैसे काम कर सकते हैं, उस लेवल पे हमने सभी डिपार्टमेंटों से, एग्रीकल्चर है, हॉर्टिकल्चर, हमारा आरडी डिपार्टमेंट है, फॉरेस्ट है और आईपीएच है. इसके अलावा हमने इसमें देखा है कि जो बैंक है इनका भी एक बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है. जो बहुत सी योजनाएं बैंक के माध्यम से ग्रामीण स्तर पे आ रही हैं और हमारा जो एसएचजी है या और ग्रुप्स हैं उनको हम कैसे बढ़ा सकते हैं, तो बैंक्स को भी हमने इसमें शामिल करने की कोशिश की है. और उसके साथ साथ जो हमारे इसमें काम हो रहा है तो समय पे उसकी मॉनिटरिंग भी एमबीएस करता है. आगे हमारा जो ग्रामीण लेवल पे लोगों की सहभागिता कैसे सुनिश्चित हो और उसके लिए किस तरह के हमारे संगठन होंगे, उस चीज पे हमने ये ध्यान दिया. तो सबसे पहले हमारा था कि जिस गांव लेवल पे हमारे स्प्रिंग थे जो हमने आइडेंटिफाई किए थे, तो हर स्प्रिंग पे हमने एक एक वाटर यूजर ग्रुप तैयार किया था जो लोग उस स्प्रिंग पे डिपेंड थे. उसके बाद हमने गांव लेवल पे हमारा पंचायत आता है, जो महिला मंडल है और सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स जो हैं हमने बनाया, जिसमें दो तरह के एसएचजी हैं, एक एमबीएस के द्वारा बनाए गए हैं और एक जो हमारा मिशन जो रूरल मिशन चला है उसके अंतर्गत जो आरएनएलएम में है. तो उन सबको हमने जोड़ के फिर हमने उन सभी ग्रुपों में से एक एक मेंबर लेके एक पानी समिति का गठन किया, जो हर गांव लेवल पे एक समिति है. जो समिति जिसमें हमारे जो यूजर हमारे वाटर यूजर ग्रुप है उससे एक एक लोग होंगे. पंचायत से हमारा जो पंचायत लेवल का वार्ड मेंबर होता है उसको शामिल किया गया है. इसके अलावा हमने, क्योंकि पंचायत में कुछ गांव ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे बीडीसी मेंबर, जिला पार्षद या प्रधान भी उस गांव से आते हैं, तो उन लोगों को भी हमने इसमें शामिल किया, महिला मंडल के सदस्य को और एसएचजी के सदस्य को. उसको मिला के हमने 5 से 7 सदस्य होते हैं एक पानी समिति में. और हमारा पानी समिति का जो मुख्य उद्देश्य ये है कि ये गाँव लेवल पे जो भी वहाँ पे काम हो रहे हैं तो उसको अगर हम स्थायी और निरंतर कैसे रख सकते हैं, उनका रोल इसमें हम देखते हैं. और दूसरा है कि जो पानी में हम टेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं, पानी की क्वालिटी का वहाँ डिस्चार्ज ले रहे हैं, तो उसको में भी हम उनको ट्रेन करें और वो ग्रामीण स्तर पे कैसे उस चीज को तैयार कर सकते हैं. और आईपीएच डिपार्टमेंट के साथ जुड़ के हम इनको गांव लेवल पे कैसे ट्रेन कर सकते हैं ताकि ये गांव लेवल पे चीजों को व्यवस्थित कर सकें. और लोगों की सहभागिता कैसे इसमें सुनिश्चित करें, क्योंकि जितने भी हमारे सोर्स हैं, स्प्रिंग्स हैं, इसमें हमने देखा कि बहुत सी स्कीमें बनी हैं, पानी की स्कीम्स आईपीएस की भी हैं, लेकिन वो बिल्कुल खुली हैं, वहाँ पे जंगली जानवर और चीजें पानी पीते हैं। तो उस चीज को देख के हमने गांव के साथ मीटिंग की, हमारा एक गांव लग है, तो वहाँ पे लोगों ने ही अपने कंट्रीब्यूशन से 3.5 लाख से उसको पूरा अपने ही गांव लेवल पे बना के पूरा सप्लाई का सारी चीजें व्यवस्थित कर की है। तो इस तरह से अब उस चीज को देख के लोगों में भी इंटरेस्ट हो रहा है कि हम इतने हमारे सोर्सेज हैं धीरे धीरे खत्म हो रहे हैं और हम नल और जल उस पर डिपेंड हो रहे हैं आईपीएस पे, तो क्यों नहीं कि हम अपने जो सोर्सेज हैं जिनके ऊपर हम सदियों से डिपेंड रहे हैं उनको हम कैसे खुद रिवाइज करें और खुद उनके ऊपर काम करें। इसके ऊपर भी हमारा जो संगठन पानी समिति है वो काम कर रही है। इसके बाद हमारा जो 5 गांव लेवल हैं उनके हमने जो फार्मर के इंटरेस्टेड जो फार्मर ग्रुप्स बनाए हैं, इसको हम एफआईजी बोलते हैं, उसमें भी हमने ये देखा कि एफआईजी में कुछ लोग जो है जिनके पास लैंड है वो खेती कर रहे हैं, वो वेजिटेबल पे कर रहे हैं, पशुपालन पे कर रहे हैं, बागवानी पे कर रहे हैं, लेकिन कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं जिनके पास लैंड बहुत कम है, तो उनको भी हम कैसे जोड़े। तो उसमें हमने जैसे मशरूम का है, मधुमक्खी पालन का है, मुर्गी पालन और सेरिकल्चर को लेके उनका भी छोटे ग्रुप बनाए हैं और उस ग्रुपों को एफआईजी के साथ जोड़ा है। उसके बाद हमारा जब ये सारा सिस्टम पूरा होगा तो उसके बाद हमारा उद्देश्य है कि जब ये प्रोडक्शन होगी, पैदावार होगी, तो उसको मार्केट में हम कैसे ले जाएं, उसको कैसे बेचें, क्योंकि जो किसान पैदा करता है तो उसकी वैल्यू जब उसके पास से जाके तो 5 रुपए की चीज मार्केट में 50 की मिलती है। तो उस चीज के लिए हमने सोचा है कि एक फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होगी एक बनाएंगे, ताकि वो डायरेक्ट अपना माल जो किसान का जो प्रोडक्शन है उसको बेच सके और जो उसका लाभ है वो सीधा किसान तक पहुंच सके। इसके बाद सर हमारा था कि जो हमारा यूजर ग्रुप होगा, वाटर यूजर ग्रुप होगा, उसकी क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज होंगी वो फिक्स की है हमने। पानी पंचायत की क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी, महिला मंडल की क्या जिम्मेवारी होगी और जो पंचायत है उसकी क्या जिम्मेवारी होगी। इन सब चीजों को हमने देखा है कि जो यूजर ग्रुप होगा वो अपने स्प्रिंग के जो नजदीक रहता है तो उसकी समय समय पे उसकी साफ सफाई करनी है, उसका डिस्चार्ज देखना है, उसकी वाटर क्वालिटी अगर खराब है तो उसको कैसे ठीक करना है, आसपास में अगर गंदगी है तो उसको साफ करने का ये यूजर ग्रुप का हमने उसमें एक पूरा उनका रजिस्टर लगाए हैं। पूरी एक वैज्ञानिक महीने की मीटिंग करते हैं और उनकी जो समस्याएं आती हैं उनको साथ बैठ के उनका समाधान करते हैं। दूसरा पानी पंचायत के बारे में आपको बता दिया कि हम इस तरह से इस पानी पंचायत में करेंगे। पंचायत जो है उसका मेन भूमिका होती है, क्योंकि पंचायत के पास न्याय व्यवस्था और जो गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम है उनको इम्प्लीमेंट करने का काम होता है। तो इसलिए हमने जितने भी हमारे गांव होंगे उनमें जो पंचायत के प्रतिनिधि हैं उनको भी हमने इस परियोजना में शामिल किया है, चाहे पानी पंचायत में हो या उनके इम्प्लीमेंट में हो। दूसरा हमारा महिला मंडल है कि बहुत से काम हमारे सोशली जो सामाजिक काम है वो गांव लेवल पे होते हैं, तो सामाजिक गतिविधियों में जो महिलाओं की भूमिका और ज्यादा कैसे हमारी इस योजना में हो सकती है, तो महिला मंडल को उसमें हमने शामिल किया है। दूसरा था हमारा कि एसएचजी की सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप को हमने इसलिए इसमें वो जोड़ा कि जो आर्थिक स्थिति है कि छोटे छोटे जो ग्रुप गांव लेवल पे होंगे, सेरिकल्चर काम कर रहे हैं, कुछ और चीज का काम कर रहे हैं, उनको हम बैंक के साथ कैसे जोड़ सकते हैं और बैंक जो स्कीम्स के माध्यम से वो वहां से ऋण लेके जो अपने आर्थिक विकास के लिए कैसे काम कर सकते हैं, उसके लिए एसएचजी के हमने गठन किए हैं। एफआईजी का हमारा ये था कि जो किसान होंगे तो किसान लेवल पे अलग अलग तरह के किसान होंगे, तो एफआईजी मिलके उनके लिए ट्रेनिंग, टेक्नोलॉजी और जो किस तरह की क्रॉप्स हम लगा सकते हैं, सीड कैसे उपलब्ध हो सकता है, ये सब चीजें हमारा एफआईजी करेगा। और ये सब चीजें जब होगी तो उसकी जो मार्केटिंग की व्यवस्था है, मार्केटिंग में उसको अच्छा रेट कैसे मिले, मार्केट में क्वालिटी को कैसे ले जाएं, ये सब चीजें पैकिंग और उसका वैल्यू एडिशन कैसे करें, इसके लिए हम एफपीओ की बात की है। धन्यवाद
जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद रसम सिंह जी। जस्ट इफ आई थिंक there is not much time to really summarize the repeat what he has said in English, but I'll just try to quickly say that what Mr. Rasam Singh explained was about the role of his organization and how they brought together different important grassroots stakeholders, which are the farmers and the users of the resource, the users, and bringing them in the form of self-help groups, the form of pani samitis, pani panchayats, and they're also planning to actually set up farmer producer organizations which can help market the commodities which will grow out as a result of extra water availability and the benefits which will accrue from this project. So he basically talked about the role and the importance of community participation, which is extremely key to to the vitality and the sustainability of this this whole initiative, and overall the rejuvenation and maintenance of springs in very difficult terrains. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद रसम सिंह जी. I now move over and request Dr. Sumit Sen from IIT Roorkee, because he did the technical monitoring. I request you to kindly express your views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranjan. Just want to say that good morning and good evening, everyone, and who is joining from US and India. Before I really go on to what we are doing as IIT Roorkee team here in this project, I would like to say thanks to Wheels Global Foundation to invite IIT Roorkee team to be a part of this a very important study, not only for the Himalayan system, but also very well can be implemented at the different places in Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats and other parts of our country. A very vital role for water security area. So just before, I'm sorry, I'm basically having a little cough, and so just want to say that before I go into my team and what we are doing in this project, I would like to just say that I'm fortunate enough to work for IIT Roorkee. IIT Roorkee is celebrating our 175 years of its existence this year, and IIT Roorkee is really famous for the water group and a lot of scientists. I'm a small part of it, where we're working on towards water security and water resources area. I'm also representing the Department of Hydrology, which is also celebrating 50 years of its existence this year. So we are celebrating 175 plus 50 years from my own home department. So coming back to this specific project, IIT Roorkee team has been a small part of this expert group. Every partner in this group has really brought its own expertise. They are the champion in the different areas. What our team has been working with the other partners is understanding and collecting the field data what has been collecting in terms of spring discharge, which has been collected by the partners. And as you have been told, that around 45 springs which have been monitored in those 4 districts. And the idea is to basically understand how these springs are varying in terms of spring discharge, how they are varying with respect to time, and with the support and a very well support from the state agency from Himachal Pradesh. They have implemented or installed 4 automatic weather stations with the request and supporting this project in Hamirpur district, Mandi, Bilaspur, and Solan. And the idea is to basically get these parameters from this automatic weather station and correlate the rainfall variability, the rainfall pattern towards the spring movement, the water and the discharge, how it is varying. The key question normally my research group normally asks is, it's not about the water when the rain occurs and how much is the discharge in the spring. It is all about when the rain is not going to occur, when the lean season hits, when the water security hits. That time, what is the discharge and how do we really predict that? And we understand the system so that we can predict how much water will be there. So that is the idea of my research group. We really look forward to work with all the partners in this project. And also we will be also looking into the different, as Professor Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni mentioned about the recharge area identification. So the idea is also to link the vegetation effect on the spring discharges. So that's the idea, and we look forward for the working. Thank you, Ranjan. I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sen. I will now request Yogesh ji, Mr. Yogesh Andlay, to actually come in and talk about the web portal, which we have heard so far that is a glue that holds this entire collaborative governance structure and is very, very central to the project and the initiatives we are taking up. So over to you, Yogesh.
Namaskar. This project is a very unique project where we are implementing it across 32 villages in 4 districts, 4 blocks, working with more than 6 government departments, ACWADAM, PSI, IIT Roorkee, then MBS, RTDC. I'm taking names because just to give you a feel of how many agencies are involved in it. Just to give you a sense of the project, there are more than 6,000 individual work elements that have been identified and are being implemented across these springs. Now imagine so many tasks, so many agencies of various kinds, so many officers and ground staff of a different level. How do you coordinate and provide a sustainability to such an initiative? That is the function of this portal. This portal has been conceived by Gauri, and of course we are supporting her in implementing it. It's almost getting developed on the fly as we started the project, and our first presentation of the portal happened after around the time when teams had started moving into the field. So it's a project which is very interesting, very challenging, happening simultaneously. Almost all the information that's required by different agencies, specifications of works, the training manuals, they are all available in this portal at one single place. If anybody tomorrow has to do this kind of a project again, like the state government is thinking in terms of implementing it across 500 springs going forward, to my mind, this portal will provide everything that is required to be done, including what kind of a training is required at different levels, what information is required to define a work, what data needs to be collected from villages, how village community needs to be engaged, how village the Panchayati Raj officials need to get involved, what will be the role of different block level officers, and all the communication across these departments, which otherwise, as we know, in a government department, things move at their own pace, happening at almost simultaneously. The moment project information is updated that in a certain village, this kind of a task has been completed, it's visible to everybody across the system. And I believe this portal will not only provide continuity, it will also provide guidance to many other organizations which are working in this area about how to coordinate a project across so many agencies with so many works of all kinds. And the interesting part is that many users, when they started using it, they came back demanding more information for the project. And we're very happy that the development team and the support team that's working with us has been able to respond to them in almost real time. I can share with you one example. The forest department, one of the forest officers said that, well, you've given me all the work descriptions, you've told me where do I have to plantation and where do I have to do the check dam or Gabion wall or whatever it be. It'll be wonderful if you can show it to us live on the map. And it was, I give the credit to our development team and the PSI team. The PSI team very quickly put together the whole information into a Google Earth system, gave us the Google Earth files, which we shared with the end users. And on these Google Earth files, the moment you click that in certain village, this kind of works, it shows exactly where that work has to be carried out. Now, this kind of continuous fine-tuning, refinement, bringing it to users' expectation has been a wonderful experience working this project in this portal. And I'll stop here because I'll be very happy to answer questions as they come by. Thank you, and back to you, Ranjan.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists for really, keeping up to the time and presenting their views and summarizing their activities very nicely. I will now, ask some follow-up questions, and I again request you to keep your answers brief so that we can also get some questions from the audience. I'll be also happy to share the questions with you in writing if you'd like to write your answers so that we can publish on our Wheels blog. So with that, I will, this is again a general question, and any of the panelists is free to take up the question as you think. So, government officers rotate when their term is over, and we know that there is an issue of institutional memory, in such kind of governance forms. So how do you institutionalize this kind of a collaborative governance process such that this continues, even if there is a change of the people involved in this? Anybody would like to?
Let me go, and then others can follow.
Yes.
So it's I think it's the most difficult part, because government officers do change. And we have had several changes of the chief secretary. The chief secretary was initially there, changed, their second, third, the rural development secretary, first secretary, second secretary, third secretary during the last 1.5 years. The Jal Jeevan Mission Directorate in Government of India has changed. So all our original partners change. How do you institutionalize? I think it's a very interesting question, and this is a very challenging question. The way we approached it, and I think there was merit in it, we started from the ground up. So we started, initially we started with the chief secretary and all the secretaries and top level officers at the state level. Then we traveled through the field and we involved all the field functionaries. So there was sense of ownership, like Yogesh was saying. The conservator of forest of Solan said that, oh, can we have this? Can we have that? And we have been extremely responsive, number one. Number two, we were trying to meet a felt need of the state government. So we identified with the state government what their requirement was. That's the second one. The third one, and here Mr. Rasam Singhji's point comes, we made the initial introductions, but then the district implementation agencies took it forward. They are the ones who are working at the grassroots. They are working with the community ownership. And fourth, how do you get community buy-in? You have to show economic results, outcomes. You have to realize that. So if community sees that the excess water available from drinking can be used for horticulture, in these areas, there's hardly any livelihood. So if they can see that, and I think finally you have to identify champions who will take it forward. Champions in organizations, champions, people champions. The amazing part is that the Ministry of the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation is now wanting to institutionalize the best practices from the ground. And they've created a forum called the Rural Wash Forum. And they actually included source augmentation only for Wheels Global Foundation. And they identified us for leading that vertical in our wash. So there are all things happening. So thank you. Debashish,
yes.
Yeah, so I think what Gauri has already mentioned, I mean, if in addition to that, what would be helpful, especially at the senior level, is if we could have an operational guidelines for the program at the state level, and if a proper orientation of the senior, I mean, the change in senior officials, if we could have a proper orientation of the coming in senior officials, then they will also fall in alignment with the program. So in addition to, and what we need is a cadre of master trainers from the different government departments, I mean, whose capacities need to be built up. So if we have the strong ground staff consisting of these master trainers and the facilitators from the DIAs, and also we could have the village water sanitation community people as para workers, then I think even with the change in the senior officials, we would be able to do quality and effective work. Yeah.
Rasam Singh ji, आप कुछ कहेंगे? Rasam Singh ji?
जी
आप जी जरूर बताएं आप. जो सरकार में अधिकारी बदलते रहते हैं, उसके बावजूद हमारा प्रोजेक्ट जो चल रहा है वो इसलिए चल रहा है क्योंकि कम्युनिटी कम्युनिटी ओन करने लगी है, उसके विषय में कुछ बताएंगे आप रसम सिंह जी?
जी मैडम जी, एक्चुअल जो हमने शुरू में ट्रेनिंग जो हमारा सरकारी डिपार्टमेंट और सब ने की, उससे क्या हुआ कि अभी जो हमारे यूजर ग्रुप्स हैं, हमारा जो पानी समिति है, वो लोगों को भी ये सब चीजें समझ आ गई हैं और समझ आना शुरू हो गया कि हम ग्रामीण लेवल पे इसको कैसे कर सकते हैं। और अभी हमारा जो डिपार्टमेंट IPH है, उसने भी ये कहा है कि जो MBS का ही हम पोर्टल बना देंगे, जो हमारा पोर्टल है उसके पोर्टल के माध्यम से सारी जानकारी उसमें अपने आप चली जाया करेगी। और हम जो पानी की किट्स हैं, जो टेस्ट किट है, वो भी हम MBS को प्रोवाइड करा देंगे इस मंथ में, ताकि ये सारी चीजें MBS और ग्रामीण स्तर पे हम ये जो चीजें हैं वो गांव तक, हमारा पानी पंचायत तक कैसे जाए और वो उस चीज को समय समय पे करता रहे।
तो लोगों की ओनरशिप इज द ओनली वे आउट ऑफ इट. कम्युनिटी ओन्स इट, कम्युनिटी ड्राइव्स इट. या जी, थैंक यू
जी।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you very much. So anybody wants to add to this very quickly? Yes, Dr. Kulkarni.
Yeah, I'll just go, Ranjan. So very quickly, see, I think apart from what has been said, I think you can only institutionalize if you work on something through a process, if you develop a fairly standardized protocol for that process, which I think we did in this program. And last but not least, I think we need continuity on concepts like this. And I think the potential of a program like this lies in how you continue beyond the project timelines. And I think that is an important element of institutionalization, because it then brings in a whole system of process improvement, doing by learning, but also learning by doing. And I think this particular pilot embodies all of this.
योगेश, आप पोर्टल के बारे में थोड़ा सा कहेंगे? पोर्टल एक्चुअली इज की टू कंटिन्यूटी. हम लोग ये प्रोजेक्ट खत्म हो जाएगा मगर पोर्टल खत्म नहीं हो सकता. एंड हम लोग का इंटेंशन ये है दैट द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ओन्स इट. सो प्लीज ओवर टू यू, योगेश.
Thank you. I was about to intervene, but was waiting for Dr. Kulkarni and others to make their observations. बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा. पोर्टल एक ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी कहिए या रिपोजिटरी कहिए बन गई है, जहां पर पूरा प्रोजेक्ट इनिशियल कंसेप्शन से लेके हर एक गांव का जो डेटा है, क्या कितने स्प्रिंग्स हैं, कितनी वाटर सप्लाई डिमांड है, क्या एग्रीकल्चर है, से लेकर हर एक इंडिविजुअल काम का किस तरह से कितना साइज का, कितने डायमेंशन का काम होना है, हर एक ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम, उसके ट्रेनिंग मैनुअल्स, हैंडआउट्स जो दिए गए हैं, वो सब एक ही जगह पर मिल रहे हैं. चाहे वो IPH के हो या ग्राम पंचायत के हो या ब्लॉक लेवल ऑफिसर्स के हो, everything, all the information that's related to this project is available at one source. If one logs into the portal, he can go and see what kind of a training, orientation that was done at the state level, the district level, the block level, the village level, including by Rasam Singh ji and others, the kind of training material that they had used. And I fully agree with you, Himanshu, Debashish and Rasam Singh ji, the observations that you have made, that this project, the continuity is because ultimately the community is taking the ownership. The officers are able to provide leadership, guidance to the project in spite of the change in hierarchy, change in the commitment to the project has remained there, and that is the commitment of the state government. And I see that going forward, as the state government is expanding the scope of this work, they will find all this information available at one place very, very handy. Otherwise, what happens is different departments do their work, their information remains fragmented. The beauty of this whole project has been convergence. Convergence at many, many levels. This convergence has happened across departments, IPH, RD, Forest. If Forest has to get some work done, they are able to give it to RD, say, can you get it done through Manrega? Similarly, the IPH department, many works are being done by RD department through Manrega. So there has been a convergence across department. There has been convergence within the department across GPDP, Manrega, and whatnot. So the beauty of this whole project and this portal is that it has provided a source to converge multiple departments together, to keep the information together and make it available to everyone on a single click. And to my mind, this portal will support the sustenance or sustainability of program. Of course, the departments have to use it, community has to use it, then only the benefit can be seen. But this is a very, very important, a strong element to maintain continuity and sustainability of project like this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Very comprehensive approach here we see. Moving on to another question, which is that your wheels, I think, as you mentioned, has identified other places, other contexts, like Ladakh and other places where this potentially is again similar context will be applied. Any plans, any visions how this will how this can happen? Do you think other states can adopt these methods and the portal?
Due to paucity of time, I think we will quickly move we've answered comprehensively that the whole idea of this project is not to do a single project, but to make it a scalable and replicable project. And that's why the SOPs that we are talking about, what we are getting now is Rasam Singh ji to make SOPs, how to involve, how to engage, and put all of those in the portal. And the portal now has, we are improving it to make several projects, not just one project. So Himachal will become just one project. Interestingly, in Himachal, the Secretary Jal Shakti asked us to include 10 more springs much later. He said, we have lots of problems in Solan. There are some spring-based distribution systems which are drying up. So we do need it very quickly. And that's how we added 10 more. So there is a demand, there's a feeling that this can turn around. And I think Himanshu said that, we have to go beyond engineering solution. The secretary was a very interesting person. And he said, we only have engineering solution. We'll have to move beyond engineering solutions to community-owned, community-driven local solutions for augmentation of source. And some very interesting thoughts came when we had these interdepartmental district level meetings. The engineers themselves gave suggestions. So, the sense of ownership is spreading. And I think the portal is actually, the key. We are trying to capture everything that we have in the portal, so that when we take the portal to another state, they have the benefit of everything that's available in the portal.
Okay. Anybody else, if you want to add, or maybe, I can ask another interesting question, which is about what are the problems and the barriers all of you faced in this process of collaborative governance in terms of it, and how would you overcome these challenges? There must have been some roadblocks.
Himanshu, you want to go?
I'll try. Yeah. So I think, again, I'm not going to take too long, but I think what quickly came to mind was first and foremost that, this project began in the midst of COVID. And I think one of the big challenges when we deal with natural resources problems is, you can't do this remotely. You can't conduct a training through a web-based system. You just can't do that. And I think, so that's challenge number one. You have to be on the ground. You have to actually hit the ground running. And and I think in many ways, this project was able to overcome that challenge. I'll just list two more. I won't go into the details. The second challenge is, the general perception about water, particularly underground water, is highly simplified. And it doesn't necessarily take into consideration the complexities in the subsurface, the complexities in the social behavior of people who access that water. And I think it's important to deal with that complexity and not oversimplify your solutions because your perceptions are simple. And last but not least, I think this problem has to be understood, the problem of water scarcity, the problem of water management, or the challenges therein have to be understood from a socio-scientific perspective. So it's not a problem of scarcity alone. It's a problem of typically what is called common pool resources. And I think dealing with problems like common pool resources require an interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach, which then actually paves the way for collaborations and partnerships like this. So I'll stop there.
I would like to add something more to, another dimension, and which is, we are working with very diverse set of people, and who have traditionally looked at the problem from many different perspectives. We have the local civil society organizations, which we are calling as DIAs, GOD, Chinmay Organization for Rural Development, MPS, Manav Vikas Sansthan, RTDC, PSI. We have scientific institutions like ACWADAM and IIT Roorkee, and we have government officers and government departments. Now, everybody traditionally has been working in silos. So how do we get them together? And that's where I give a lot of credit to Gauri ji, because when the project started, towards just when we were, coming out of the COVID phase, we had not yet completely come out of the COVID restrictions. Gauri ji took arduous task of going into the field. She visited Kangla, Bilaspur, Solan, and Shimla. And I remember I did a part of the tour with her, but it required some great amount of efforts, perseverance, energy, enthusiasm to get everybody together in one big hall. The local, the NGO, the government departments, the block functionaries, and talk openly. And the whole process of the listening and talking, hearing each other, created an environment where some of these silos we noticed had started, melting away. Conversations had started amongst departments, conversations had started with the NGOs, the GOD, the MPS, the RTDC, the PSI. And more than that, we got a feel of what is happening on the ground. And again, I give the credit to Gauri ji, because she, with her ability to establish a quick rapport with the government officials across levels, right up to the senior most level to the junior most level, that also helped in overcoming, which could have been a huge challenge of helping different diverse groups to come together. And this is another dimension that we need to keep in mind and probably document and research as to how do we get different people to come together, talk to each other, and step out of the silos. Thank you.
Well, Yogesh, thank you for your generous compliments, but I must say it's a journey. It's a journey of intensive engagement. It is our passion which actually convinces people to come on board. Yogesh, you remember, it's so difficult to get people on board. And you have to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. Everybody wants to do it business as usual. This is business unusual. And I think each of the organizations had huge problems in adjusting to the discipline of accountability on the portal, whether it's PSI, everybody. I think it's a very different set of things that we are wanting to do. And I don't think we are there yet. I think it's still a journey, and we'll continue to learn and evolve and respond. So thank you.
Yeah. Anybody also some of the challenges you faced? Any other example stories? Maybe PSI? Dr. Sen?
Yeah, thanks, Ranjan. I would really agree with, first of all, with Yogesh ji in terms of the task put in by WGF, and especially Gauri ji playing a crucial role in addressing the various barriers. Because there is a mention of policy. So one of the good things about this project has been that, unlike emphasis, generally there is an emphasis on the centralized schemes. I mean, the IPH schemes, which from one source itself, there is supplying to numerous villages. The focus the emphasis for this pilot project has been, in addition to these centralized schemes, has been on localized schemes which are community owned. So that's really a good, I think, component of this project. And as for other, as in all multi-stakeholders project where numerous stakeholders are involved, I mean, there are all kind of fear and social and power dynamics which come into way. And as mentioned, I mean, I think we have been able to handle a lot of that, but there is still a lot to do. I mean, the procedures, the approval of the recommendations has taken some time, and therefore the works are delayed a bit. And so that's a matter of concerns. But I think, and there are also communications gaps between the higher authorities and the ground level staff. So what we need to do is also constantly get feedback from the ground level staff, and because who are the new people who are coming in, and that has to be followed with training and coordination between the various departments. So I think we are on the right track, and especially with the support of Lead Global Foundation. Yeah, thank you.
रसम सिंह जी, आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे कि क्या challenges हैं? रसम सिंह जी?
जी, अभी तो ठीक है मैडम जी, अभी तो कोई चैलेंज नहीं है अभी।
बहुत मैनेज किया है आप लोगों ने, बहुत क्रेडिटेबल है कि बहुत अच्छे से मैनेज किया है। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।
मैं अपना, I want to share with you my own mind shift. When we started the project, you know, typically like any other development project that's done by NGO, the thought is that we will get the community involved, we will go and do it in one area, and you know, we will demonstrate it in one area. And this project has shifted my own thinking from that isolated approach to an approach where we need to engage with multiple partners. We need to bring in the sensitivity of the local ground level organizations. We need to bring in the scientific rigor of you know, doing evidence-based scientific analysis of problems and solutions. And we need to engage corporates because they, you know, the kind of quick decision making, the agility that they show. And we have to bring in government because the government is got the scale. It's the government's mandate to deliver all these citizen services. Unfortunately, because of various reasons, they are not able to do it. They need support. But rather than showing, you know, how do we engage all these diverse partners together and deliver a project has been a huge mind shift personally for me. I think now, if I can say that for myself, and I'm sure everybody who's been engaged in this project would have experienced similar kind of mind shifts.
Yes, thank you very much again for your view. So another question would be, what is the role of the larger programs and schemes and departments like the Jal Shakti Mission, the Niti Aayog? How do you see this getting more traction? What is their role probably in scaling up this kind of an initiative?
Very briefly, we have been working behind the scenes to get people's attention. So spring shade development was not really under focus. The focus had moved, and with whatever feedback we gave, with that, the watershed development 2.0 has spring shade development as an integral component. Another very important feedback which we had given after our visit, which Yogesh was mentioning about, we went to the field actually in the month of, I think, May of 2021, June of 21, when it was fairly at peak. And we traveled through the state. We went to the villages, we went to the communities, we did lots of things. At that time, it's important to understand that the departments beyond the point have to be nudged. Quality is a major issue, so we highlighted quality. So what we see going forward is that these conversations that we are having, why are we having this webinar? I think these conversations help us to raise issues of concern, to say that these are important things and to, as a proof of concept, to showcase a project and to create a model of a portal which others can use. So the whole idea is that we start a conversation where the policy becomes more responsive to the felt needs. And I think the brilliant initiative of Secretary of Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation of creating our WASH and starting a dialogue is a great, as I said, these are all journeys. It's not a destination, but these are all good beginnings that have been made.
Thank you very much. Others? Anybody else? Yeah.
Add on to what Gauri mentioned, and basically today I came from Jharkhand, and I was there in a conference for specifically for the spring shed management. And what ma'am said about the PMKSY 2.0 really is making a ignite. And there were mainly the 4 states were representing that in that conference: Jharkhand, Bihar, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh. And majorly, they were really excited. The field organizations, specifically the people from the state departments of soil water conservation, they have so many questions regarding the spring shed management, and I think that really is going to be a changer there. Yeah.
I would like to add one more element to it, Dr. Ghosh. You see, with these interventions, the background conversations that Gauri has been having with all the Govt officers, in our WASH, one specific element of source augmentation got added. Typically, as you know, we all know the approach of the government departments had been a very engineering-focused approach. जहां पानी चाहिए वहां कुआं खोदो, नलकूप खोदो, बोरवेल लगाओ, पानी पंप करो, किसी भी तरह से पहुंचा दो. Now, from that, this mind shift that we have to augment the resource, the source of water also, has been a huge shift. And I credit that to all the conversations, the background information, the constant nudging that Gauri has been doing with the central government officers, the secretaries, the director, and everyone. I was very happy to see source augmentation being added as an additional element in our WASH, and Wheels being given the responsibility to lead that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So we are now, kind of closing in. I request the audience, if there are any specific questions you'd like to ask, maybe you can drop in the chat box or the Q&A. We already have, a lot of interest here where people are also asking about how do you ensure water quality? Are you testing for water quality and things like that? So any views on that?
Well, there are a few questions in the Q&A box.
Yeah.
One of them is from Sri Madhuri, and she wants to know if such a process and model is only applicable to hilly areas, or can it be adopted by anyone?
No, Madhuri, actually, what we are creating is a collaborative, it's a governance paradigm. A governance paradigm is agnostic to hilly areas or water for that matter. So what we are trying to create is actually a movement for people to come together with different areas of competence. So very interestingly, we had these pond rejuvenation people coming, IIT for IT. And we said, we'll work with you. So now we are planning to go to, we have on the anvil, we have identified UP, the ministry had asked us, and we have identified UP and Ladakh. So there will be different models. It's not peculiar, Madhuri, to hilly areas at all. I don't know if it answers your question. I'll be happy to connect with you later if required. Very happy to take it forward with you.
Can I say something on that one?
Please, Himanshu, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the question is a pertinent one, and I think like Gauri ji has said, it's the concept of collaborative governance itself is something that we can take to many areas, not just in water, but in health, in all kind of development challenges. So that's one. The second, if you look at springs and the restoration, revival, protection of spring water, then it also has certain answers to areas where you don't have springs. And I think that's the reason why I said earlier, the process and protocol is particularly important, because you can scale this whole process out, not just in hilly areas, but in other areas as well. The only difference would be that the context would change. The questions would slightly change. But the overall process, the overall concept of demystification, providing evidence, building a strategic set of solutions, and collaborative governance is going to remain pretty much the same.
Thank you. So another question by an anonymous attendee is about the improvement of the water quality itself. In addition to just source augmentation, is there any work that needs to be done from a water quality perspective?
Rasam Singh ji, आप जवाब देना चाहेंगे कि देबशीष जी आप देंगे? आप दीजिए देबशीष जी. Why don't you go,
This
Debashish?
is a very pertaining questions. I mean, one of the major problem with water quality in the mountain springs that we have found is the bacteriological contamination. And the source of bacteriological contamination is basically either from the recharge area. It could be from behaviors like open defecation or the stray animals, or even other sanitation practices. So first of all, it's important to monitor the water quality and especially train the community, the village water and sanitation committee members on how to do it regularly, so that they are aware of the problem, and they then develop protocols in terms of protecting the recharge area. So, I mean, there are what we are asking the communities in terms of going in for social fencing, or if required, even for barbed wire fencing or other kinds of fencing. And also the other thing is in terms of, how do we use the water? So there could be either they have to boil it, or hypochlorite can be also used. 4 drops of hypochlorite in about 10 liters of water should be, with that kind of treatment, they should be able to use the water for drinking. So those are, recharge area protection as well as the treatment of the polluted water has to go hand in hand. And training of the communities in terms of monitoring.
Training of communities, which is what you are taking up, yes.
Thank you. There's one final question which I can read out from Dr. Bikram Paul. Many of his questions have already been answered in the Q&A box, but this one might be kind of interesting for everyone to hear. Is, do you face any political boundary conflicts between states of water extraction and distribution? And how do you overcome that? Cross-boundary issues.
Dr. Paul, we are not really dealing with rivers at the moment. When you do, then certainly those issues will become very pertinent. We are talking of, we are dealing with at the moment resources which are within state boundaries like springs. So springs are local, so there is no cross-boundary issue. But as we go into the plains and we start looking at diverse sources of water, certainly these issues are going to become relevant. And, the only thing I can say, Dr. Paul, is that our approach is to listen and respond. How are we different than any other project? There are so many projects which are happening. We listen very closely to issues and try and find a harmonious solution to it. I think that's the only thing I can say going forward that could work. If anybody else, Himanshu, you want to go, please go ahead. Because, interstate water issues are very significant and very critical now.
Yeah, so I'll sort of quickly add to that. So, well, yes and no. I mean, when we consider boundaries, we consider the boundaries at scale. But yes, I mean, one of the big challenges is even when you identify a recharge area, and that's what the concept of spring shed tells you, that Spring shed is a concept which integrates your surface, your watersheds, your aquifers below the surface, and where the springs emerge as groundwater discharge points. And in this entire picture, very often you come across situations where the spring is sitting on one side of the landscape, the recharge areas on the other side of the landscape, and you have two villages, one village sitting on the recharge area, one village sitting on the spring and using the spring. So in some ways, it is a minuscule representation of a transboundary problem. And sadly, transboundary is a very geopolitical term where we tend to think of boundaries only as boundaries between states or countries. But there are imaginary boundaries that exist within the human mind. And very often these play out. Then there's also the question of sometimes the recharge area falls in a forest, and the spring is in a sort of village habitation. And these are, of course, challenges that one has to cope with. And I think this project, like many of the initiatives we are undertaking, actually consider this problem as a core problem. And we try to contextualize it, and we try to bring it into the mainstream discussion in order to resolve it. And that's the reason why I said right up front, it's actually trying to solve this problem through the lens of a common pool resource. And I think communities understand what a common pool resource is. And it's just a question of communicating with communities so it's almost like a negotiated system. And I think this project has actually been able to look at this problem through a governance point of view. And on top of that, we've brought in the whole concept of collaborative governance. So I hope I've been able to do some justice to that.
Yogesh is itching to go. So Yogesh, not without your.
Thank you very much. No, I was listening to Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni, and I couldn't agree less with him that this is ultimately, the whole governance framework we have experienced in this project in a very, very different way. We have been working on many other projects in many other places where we work with just one department. And there we say that, and we are just exposed to one department and one plan and one process. Here, when we worked across departments, we sat in the meetings with Chief Secretary, chaired it, and saw how the entire dynamics, how this, even within the department, the silos, my own area, my own sphere, how those boundaries got transgressed was an experience to be seen. And the way the whole conversation happened, the way departments offered support to each other, that was absolutely mind-boggling. So Rural Development Department saying, okay, fine. If you have a budget constraint, you don't have a plan readily available, give it to us. We'll do it in Manrega, right? Now, this kind of an approach we had never seen before. And I was so happy, so excited to see that kind of a, initiative coming forward from the very young, energetic officers like Govt Thakur, and offering to Forest Department, the Jal Shakti Department, you have a problem there, I'm here to help you. This is the power of this kind of an approach. I think I'll stop here, but I can keep continue to go on.
So thank you very much. I think there are also some other interesting questions coming up, but I think in the interest of time, we will have to move to conclusion, and maybe all the participants are requested, of course, can contact us, contact Wheels, contact our panelists here, and take it bilaterally. May I request Suresh to make a comment?
Thank you very much, Ranjan. What a phenomenal panel this has been, and thanks to Gauri ji for her leadership and her passion. We learned a lot. I mean, I've been taking copious notes, and I'm trying to summarize it in a way that, a one word kind of a thing per lesson. It starts with planning, creating teams, instrumentation, such as weather stations that we heard about, data collection and aggregation. So you measure everything, you collect the data, you analyze it, you involve people, communities, technologies, technocrats, if you will, partners, government across the board. Then you innovate solutions, you converge on certain action items, implement, and finally inform everyone. And the creation of the portal as a kind of the glue, as Gauri ji has so eloquently put it, the glue that holds it all together. And again, this is a classic example of science, technology, NGOs, academia, government, all coming together to solve a very, very important and demanding problem with regards to water. But clearly, one of the lessons that we also heard was that this portal concept of collaborative governance is not only imminently scalable, but also extensible to healthcare or any other vertical. The questions might change, the planning and the teams will change, obviously, but clearly that glue can be very important in collaborative work. Some of the other lessons we learned is how do you institutionalize such a concept as collaborative governance and the portal so that it lives beyond the team and lives beyond changes in government and so on. And a very good suggestion made by Debashish ji was to sort of have a continuing education program, perhaps a training program, operational guidelines and so forth, which will sort of sustain and live beyond regimes, if you will, or governments. And also it was good to know that one of the objectives of WHEELS to become a trusted partner was realized through being invited to be one of the members of the Water Commission, if you will, on the sustainability side. There were some very, very interesting questions from the audience, which were also addressed very nicely on social behavior, which needs to be sort of taken into consideration. As Himanshu ji very eloquently put it, the problem of common pole resources demanding partnerships require such a consideration of social behavior. And the solution was also offered to be communications at the ground level staff, and the use of visualization of the issues, the integration of Google Earth and Google Maps, and as Yogesh ji pointed out in the portal, where people who don't have to know how to build a portal but can read it and visualize it and see the impact of these initiatives at the ground level are very important elements. We have also adopted at WHEELS a program called SEHU, which sort of takes data and is able to demonstrate to locals, exactly how impact is extensible to the community and the depth of the impact, if you will. So this has been a really wonderful event. Thank you very much. Gauri ji, do you have any final comments and remarks as a chairperson of this event?
Thank you so much, my co-chairman Suresh, for those wonderful summarization. Ranjan, Professor Ranjan Ghosh for being the moderator, and all my wonderful partners, Himanshu Kulkarni, Debashish Singh, Rasam Singh, Sumit Singh, and Yogesh, not just for making this whole idea. It's more an aspirational concept, that we are trying to do. And we from our side, we try to select the champions, but to make it work, it required all of you to change to business unusual. And I'm so glad it took time for us to come together, but we have finally come together. I see some questions, Suresh, that, asking for the portal. Now, the portal is currently under transition, and I had said, to the state government, because we want them to take ownership. Very shortly, we will be putting, so the portal will be accessible to any visitor once it transitions. That transition will take about 3-4 weeks more. So WHEELS Water Council has a page, and we will put out, Yogesh, please remember to put out the portal login there. We could, if we have the emails, we will also revert to you with the portal login details. It will be open to any visitor. And the whole idea, we were talking of sustainability and continuity beyond the project, is when it becomes accessible to visitors and the visitors start looking at it, I think everybody becomes accountable. So thank you all so much. Thanks also to the entire team of volunteers and collaborators who worked very hard to make this event a success. Finally, to all of you attendees, I hope you enjoyed. As I said, it's just a journey. We are sharing with you our experiences. I don't think we have any solutions. It's just that we are making our best effort to find a solution together, together with the people, together with the state government, together with the agencies. So more the merrier. We look for partners to make it more holistic. So anybody who comes to us and says we are working in Himachal, I say, okay, join with us. Let's work together because we have a presence with the state, and we'll be very happy to work with you. We have our next webinar on October 9th at the same time on livelihood and sustainability. Hope you'll enjoy and attend it. Suresh had mentioned about the 7th annual Ideal Village Conference, which is in Banaras in the university from 11 to 13. Please register on the website of idealvillageconference.com. If you wish to, there are also stalls. If you wish to take, you could take a stall. A link to today's event and the recording will be on our website, wheelsglobal.org. We encourage all of you to visit our Getting Involved page on WJF. You can get involved in many ways. Anything that interests you, that you're passionate about, could be from recommending new innovations and projects and worthy NGOs, to volunteering and advising, to internships, to helping with CSR funds, or even your generous donations. So the whole idea is to scale the impact. A lot of us are putting our personal funds, our pension funds into it because we believe that this project has the capacity to transform the way the segmented, the silo way in which we function. Each one of us, and it's not just government alone, each one is most comfortable working in their own comfort zone. So how do we persuade ourselves in a larger public good to be able to have consortium, to work together, to find the best of everything, to learn and to unlearn many a thing. And that process is what is very important. In life, what matters is not where you are, but the direction that you take. We are sanguine that you will join us on this journey of learning and learning that we have embarked on. Thanks to all of you, and hope to see you at the next webinar and also at the Banaras Hindu University. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you. And any donations, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't say that any donations you wish to make can be made at our website at wheelsglobal.org. And as Gauri ji has mentioned, we equally value your time and your talent. So in addition to money, of course, which almost 100% of it goes towards the project itself. So if you wish to support these projects in any way, any amount is welcome. So we thank you very much, and we hope you'll join us again on October 9th for the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I can just come in to say that, we had number of questions and we would revert to those questions also, Suresh, if you agree.
I think what we'll do is we'll save the chat.
Please, yeah, if you could please do that. Some people have shared their email also. So if you could please do that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Ranjan. Thank you, Himanshu, Debashish, Sumit, Yogesh.